Have you ever really thought about all the systems that have to work perfectly just to make sure you get home from your job safely every single day? And I'm not just talking about wearing a hard hat or seeing a few warning signs. Today, we're going to dive into the global blueprint for workplace safety, a massive framework called ISO 45001 that touches pretty much every industry you can think of.
So let's start with a big question. When an accident happens at work, yeah, the immediate injury is what everyone sees. But honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. What are the real costs that just cascade out from that one single event? Trust me, the full impact goes way, way deeper than most people imagine. It's like a domino effect, really. One single incident can bring production to a screeching halt, it can trigger huge legal fines, and it can just absolutely crush a team's morale. And let's be real, in today's world, the damage to a company's reputation can be one of the heaviest, longest-lasting costs of them all.
So when you start to look at this whole spectrum of costs, all these ripple effects, it becomes crystal clear why we needed a much smarter, more organized way to approach safety.
And that, right there, is where ISO 45001 comes into the picture. Now, this isn't just another boring binder of rules. It's a complete international framework designed from the ground up to manage occupational health and safety.
So what is it exactly? Well, at its heart, ISO 45001 gives companies a standard for creating something called an Occupational Health and Safety Management System, or OH&SMS for short. You can almost think of it like an operating system, but for safety.
And its purpose? It's incredibly straightforward and, honestly, really powerful. It's all about preventing harm before it ever happens. The whole point is to build a solid foundation for a safe and healthy environment, so that injuries and illnesses just don't happen in the first place.
This quote really gets to the heart of it. This is a huge shift in thinking. For decades, a lot of safety programs were all about reacting after an accident. ISO 45001 completely flips that script. The entire focus is on prevention, not reaction. It's all about getting ahead of the problem.
So how does it actually do that? Well, it's built on this simple but incredibly effective loop of continuous improvement called the PDCA cycle. It's called the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. It's pretty intuitive. First, you plan. You identify potential dangers, you assess the risks, and you set your safety goals. Then, you do. You actually put all those safety measures and controls into practice. Next, and this is crucial, you check. You monitor everything and audit the system to see if it's actually working. And finally, you act on everything you've learned. You make improvements, and you start the whole cycle all over again. It's a loop that never stops. Okay, now to make that cycle really effective, you have to understand a couple of core concepts that are right at the heart of this standard. So let's break down the difference between a hazard and a risk. First up, a hazard. A hazard is basically anything that has the potential to cause harm. It's the unguarded piece of machinery, the bottle of chemicals with no label, or that wobbly ladder in the corner. It's the what could hurt someone. And that brings us to risk. Now, risk is different. It's not just a hazard itself. It's the chance of that hazard actually causing harm, combined with how badly someone could get hurt. So, for instance, a wet floor is the hazard. The risk is how likely it is someone will walk there, slip, and how severe their injury might be. The whole goal of ISO 45001 is to systematically identify and reduce that risk down to a level everyone is okay with. And this right here is a real game changer in modern safety. Under ISO 45001, you can't just have managers in an office making up the rules. It's a requirement that people who are actually doing the work must be consulted and involved in making safety decisions. I mean, they're on the front lines, right? Their input is absolutely essential. You can really see what a huge leap forward this is when you put it side by side with the old standard, OHS 18001. The whole philosophy shifted from being reactive to being preventive. It went from having limited worker involvement to demanding strong participation. And it evolved from focusing only on risks to looking at both risks and opportunities to get better. It's a complete evolution in how we think about safety.
So, after all that planning, all that system building, what's the actual payoff? Why should an organization go through all this effort? What are the real, tangible benefits?
Well, because it is absolutely 100% worth it. When you implement this standard, you see fewer accidents, which means less downtime. Simple as that. You ensure you're meeting all your legal requirements. You build a powerful safety culture where people feel genuinely valued, which skyrockets trust and morale. And yeah,
On top of all that, it often leads to lower insurance costs and gives you global recognition as a safe place to work. It's a win-win-win. And don't make the mistake of thinking this is only for big factories or dangerous construction sites. If an organization has people working for it, I don't care if it's a hospital, a tech startup, an office, a warehouse, this framework applies. Safety is universal.
So I'll leave you with this challenge. Think about your own workplace. Is safety something that only gets talked about after something goes wrong? Or is it baked into the way you work every single day? Is your culture reactive, or is it truly proactive? That's the core question that ISO 45001 really challenges all of us to answer. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.